Is 312, clear takeoff, left hand. Takeoff left, it is 3-1. Left land, swim west, copy. 3-1. Crossing 2-1. Crossing at 2-4 is
Hello and welcome to the Blueskies Podcast. I'm PR Ganapathy, your host.
Just 70, roger, report IP southeast, connection, for the midway, and field selected.
Today is a very special day because it's the first time that we have multiple guests, but also very special guests. I know for the last year or so, you all have been listening to the podcast where we've been interviewing military aviators, speaking about their experiences, flying those lethal machines that the services provide them. But as the saying goes, behind every successful man is his wife, and I thought it was a very important that we also understand that dimension of military aviation, the families, what they go through, and their experiences. And so today we've assembled a lovely panel of three wives of military aviators. We have Mrs. Sheela Jaywant, whose husband CM Jaywant was a previous guest on the program. We have Swaroopa Nanodkar, her husband AVM Nanodkar was also a guest on the program talking about the Jaguar. And we have Mrs. Sharmila Roy Chaudhary, who is joining us. And all three of them are based in Goa. Their husbands are now retired in the case of Mrs. Jaywant and Mrs. Nanodkar. And Mrs. Roy Chaudhary's husband unfortunately passed away while in service in the late 90s. And we're going to speak to her about that too. But first things first, ladies, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for speaking to me. I can't tell you how grateful I am for the time you're taking.
Thank you for having us in this program.
Thank you, Gans.
Welcome, ma'am. So maybe we'll just start off like we do with all our guests. I'd love to hear your backgrounds. Did you have a service connection? How did you meet your husbands? And what were the thoughts going on in your mind? Excitement, trepidation when you were marrying into a service family and joining your husband. And maybe we can start with Mr. Jaywant.
Yeah, sure. So my husband and I were from the same school and we met at a common friend's wedding. And though I had two relatives who were in the services, I had no clue whatsoever about life in the military. I didn't even know the difference between Air Force, Army, and Navy at the time. So from a big city like Bombay, we took 36 hours to reach Hindon, which was near Ghaziabad. And yes, it was a different world, a very different world, a bit anglicized and a bit formal, but very charming. What I do remember is our posting immediately after Hindon. We went to Srinagar, where my son was a baby. And when we used to wash his nappies and hang them out to dry, they were like icicles overnight. And I had not experienced snow. If I had to tell somebody in my home that, when I, not the educated ones, but if I were to talk to somebody, say from my village, that barf girta hai, they would wonder because the only barf they had seen was in the fridge. And we had no gas. We used to have a Nutan stove. We had no fridge. So in winters, that was not a problem. But in summers, we learned to eat everything fresh, cooked on a single Nutan stove. And by the way, one beer bottle of kerosene can cook a meal for 4 people, just to let you know.
I guess you learn and remember the most amazing things. Huh?
Yes, from Srinagar, we were posted to Tambram, and right at the bottom of the subcontinent. And it was bitterly cold when we left Srinagar, and it was a 5-day journey with 5 changes of trains to reach down south, and with a little baby. So we had friends who came to the station with water or surf or whatever else was needed. And people on the trains used to be quite helpful, they would give us hot water or whatever else we needed. So that was something that in civilian life, I think people didn't really have. But as we didn't have packers, we didn't have helpers, no orderlies, we were the Air Force, right? But
Right.
then, as they say, Jawani Diwani hoti hai. So it was fun. We had a Bukhari where my husband used to get one big block of coal and he would drag it from the main road to our house. And then by candlelight, because the wattage was so low that the bulbs were like candles, he used to take a hammer and actually break the big coal down into little pieces so we could feed the Bukhari. It actually probably wasn't very comfortable, but at that time we found it very funny.
How about you, Mrs. Rajchandra? How did you meet your husband? And did you have a service background at all?
And not at all. I didn't have anybody in uniform dur dur tak. We are a family of lawyers, doctors, engineers, professors. Nobody in the services whatsoever. I met my husband. Ours was a long romance of 4 years. I was 16, a very precocious schoolgirl in Maharani Gayatri Devi Girls Public School, one of the like posh schools and or whatever. So my imagination was, all that World War II and that kind of stuff. I had no clue whatsoever what awaited me in the services. I was very keen to get married. I refused to complete my education. And my mother and her sisters were highly educated. So, and they knew my incapability as far as domesticity was concerned. So they were rather skeptical. But anyway, I got my way, got married, promised to complete my education in Loreto House, Kolkata. Went back to college, ran away within 2 weeks. Reached Air Force Station, Chabua, without informing anybody. Landed in Chabua, called up which was number 47 squadron crew room, said, "Oh, CO साहब से बात कराना," because he used to keep chatting with me because Chow and I were romancing for so long. Everybody in the squadron knew me, so I thought I was on first name basis with everybody, chill and those college wala attitude and all that. Oh, yeah, well, the seniority rank meant nothing to me, absolutely nothing to me. So the CEO came online. I said, "Hey, hi, I've just landed, and how about sending me a vehicle or something like that?"
Oh
So
boy.
I was picked up by the aircrew van. My husband was still in bachelor accommodation. We moved in with late Lachus and we had to share accommodation, which I didn't really mind. I would sleep till 12 o'clock. And Sunita was very sweet to me. And by the time I woke up, everything was done. So it was almost like home. Only when we moved into our own accommodation, then reality struck me. I said, Ye to. I mean, then I asked people, I said, don't you get people to work for you? And they said, yeah, yeah, all of us have a maid. And I'm a big fish from a small pond. Chota sa one hick town where, you were something because your father was a, top criminal lawyer, mother was a professor, everybody knew you and all that. So some things we took for granted, which obviously one of the same things which was available in the Air Force, like domestic staff. So I had to call up my mother. Those days, phone call was another big deal. You booked a trunk call and then something happened, and then you said, "Hello, hello, hello." It wasn't like just you pick up the phone and you call people, right? That was quite an adventure, but how I got leveled out. I mean, very soon I was riding a Bajaj Priya, which I didn't I learned how after joining the Air Force. Before that, I was hitching rides with the Aircom. That time he was Group Captain Kariappa. Bloody handsome chap in an open jeep and all going and all that. And I was like trudging with my jhadu and my sabji and all that. So I asked for a lift. He said, "Young lady, where can I drop you?" I said, "Ration stand, please." That's where we used to stay in Chabua. Oh God. I mean, that was fun.
Yeah, I'll come back to the accommodations. But Mrs. Nanodkar, what was your background growing up? How did you meet your husband, and what were you thinking when the idea of marrying into the service came up?
Okay, I was a pure Bombay girl like Sheila, and I had no clue about the services. The only thing was there was tremendous respect for anybody in uniform. That was the only guiding light. And so like Sharmila and Sheila, I didn't have a love marriage. I was made to meet my husband. I was shown a photograph by my Masi, and obviously, a young man in a uniform always looks very smart and handsome.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how we were made to meet. We had a few meetings. Our marriage started with a like and went on to love. So that's what,
Very
yeah, yeah.
nice.
But I had no clue about the
Where was he posted
when
when you got
yeah,
married?
when he got married, he was in Pune, posted to Pune, and
Ah.
I was in
Oh,
Bombay.
nice. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Ah.
ours was a
Okay.
like and love later.
Very nice. Now you've spoken about the difficulty in finding accommodation. So I think a lot of civilians will struggle to believe that accommodation is hard to come by. Uh, why is that? And especially in remote places like Chabua. I remember Tezpur in the 70s. There were these things called bashas, which was chicken wire and mud put together, and bamboo thatch. But just describe some of the sorts of places that you stayed at, and why was accommodation so difficult?
I think that's because the kind of houses they show in Bollywood and the kind of lifestyles that people talk about, even in some of the magazines, the articles which I have read are so wrong. They're very misleading. We've lived in we've lived in houses where the walls were so damp and they would give electrical shocks, mild ones, but it was there, right? So yeah, and playing musical houses were the norm. Yeah, yeah, it was the norm to play. To somebody went on leave, we used to simply go.
No, no, the names, such innovative names for accommodation. What was it? Ration stand, Bhangi colony.
Yes,
What was that? Those kind of names we had, yeah. And I don't remember a single station where you walked into accommodation. No,
never,
except when my
never.
husband was commanding a squadron,
Yeah,
तब हमको मिला. Otherwise, we always walked into some kind of a temporary accommodation. By the time you went up the ladder, it was time for you to get posted out. Then you go to the next place, start from the bottom of the ladder.
yeah, but that is if you stayed inside camp. We've stayed outside camp in Tambram. When we reached Tambram, everyone around me knew only Tamil, and I had to learn Tamil for survival. Just vocabulary, punda, inji, pala, tanni, whatever. Rendruba, ambat paisa. This is a fact. Not everyone stayed inside camp.
I'll tell you an interesting experience in a place like Pune. We got a accommodation that was called some 1020 area or something. And Sunil, that's my husband, he had to drop us there. I had my daughter who was around 5 years old, and he dropped us there. And the next day, he pushed off on a TD. And luckily, my nephew who used to stay in Pune, he said, "Don't stay alone. I'll come and stay with you." He was a college-going boy then, and three of us had a good dinner and all, and we slept off. In the middle of the night, I suddenly felt rainfall on us, rather, all three of us who was sleeping on the boxes that we had set up. And I just looked up, and there was no roof there, and the roof had flown off, and it was raining. And the first thing, of course, I had to answer the nature's call. So I rushed into the bathroom as soon as I got up, and there too the roof had flown off. And in the middle of the night, three of us sitting there and not knowing what to do. uh, but anyway, we found our way through that also. But these are some of the interesting things, and that we had to face, which made us very, you can say, strong, and we could lead a nonchalant life after. Adventurous too, yes.
No, I think it makes you kind of very flexible. Like in Avantipur, we had to stay in tents, and there were deep trench latrines which had to be shared. So going to the toilet was like timed. And I think I can stay in a garage, I can stay in a bungalow, I can stay anywhere now. It makes no difference.
Ah, I think it was in Chabua. You couldn't have a fight if you wanted to. So we'd put on the music really loud and then like squabble like dogs and then slow down the music when we were over. So we had to time it out. Like jhagda karna, you just can't start jhagdaing like that. Okay.
Besides Jagda, there were other things you couldn't do.
I'm just putting it decently. Okay. Huh. Huh.
So, you've spoken about transfers, and I think the frequent transfers or transferability. Now, is that reasonably predictable? Are you at a particular place for a reasonable period of time so you can settle down and begin to enjoy the place? Or are these things fairly unpredictable, happen quickly, and then the tenures are short, can be anything? What's been your experience? And maybe we'll start with Mrs.
Who?
Yeah, go ahead.
Arey, hamara to unpredictability was our life. We started with every tenure was less than a year. Even as a commanding officer, we had to move the squadron. मतलब उसमें भी दो हो गया 2 साल शांति से एक जगह में नको. We were in Pathankot commanding. He was commanding 3 squadron. Then the squadron moved to Ambala. Acha, then we were posted in Hashimara. Then the squadron moved to Bagdogra. Then we did Chabua, Adampur. Acha, after staff college, I was told that you are given your choice posting. And guess where our choice posting was? It was Uttarlai, Badmer, the rocky deserts of Badmer, where you had no accommodation except for the AOC and 1 or 2 positions and the 2 unit commanders. Nobody else had
Hey
accommodation.
Sharmila, people pay good money to go to those places now.
That, that's because we have advertised it well.
Now, no, acha, by the way, Ganpati, the situation has changed a lot. No, because I have been to Uttarlai about 12 years back. Now there is accommodation and it's become quite this thing. So things are very different in some of the squadrons. I mean, in some of the places at least, things are quite different now.
Yeah,
So what we
they have
say,
tiled flooring and all. It's quite good
हाँ,
now.
हमारा time का was a very different time altogether. I think, abhi it's a lot more, I think, predictable and people get better paid. So like having a gadi wadi is no big deal. Hamara to gadi came into our lives much later. And one Iraq returned chap would have a VCR, yeah, and a television, and the whole squadron would go and shamelessly park themselves out there and watch movie after movie, whether they liked it or they didn't like it, immaterial.
Right. And Mrs. Nanodkar, what were some of your places where you were based, and which is some of your favorite bases and why?
Uh, well, you can say that in 30 years, when Sunil retired, it was 30 years of marriage, and we had about 19 postings, out of which, 3 postings were 4 years, 3 years, and 2.5 years. So you can imagine what happened to the rest. Like Sharmila has said, it was less than a year mostly. But otherwise, you can say we had a lot of good experiences, but I think my favorite place would be a place called Nalia, which I don't think many of
I have been there. I
yeah.
have stayed there. I have stayed there. I have stayed there.
That-
हमारा bread भुज से आता था और
yes,
हमारा gas cylinder भुज से आता था.
absolutely. And it was when we started from Bhuj in a four-wheeler. There was nothing on the way till we reached Air Force Station Nalia. There was absolutely nothing
And
and
क्या
nobody.
roads थे?
And the road was a one-lane road
Even
there.
in those days, the
Yes.
roads were fantastic. Yeah.
But we
Because you
had
were
to
right
go.
next to the border, right? It was right up
Yes,
there.
yes.
I don't know why, but Nak Barobar Rasta, not a bump throughout the
Yes,
road.
no, the roads in Gujarat, yeah, that side were always good, but very narrow. So every time a bus came from the front, you had to go off the road, and this happened many a time. But the best place because it was, as we used to say, that we go to Pune and Bombay where our parents were based for some work, and then go back to Nalia as to enjoy the resort. It was a wonderful place with lots of fish and lots of beaches, virgin beaches.
Yeah, lovely
Yeah,
fish.
lovely fish and lovely beaches. Yeah.
And the beaches were like private beaches.
Huh?
हाँ और नहीं तो क्या. और क्या बीचेस होते थे.
Virgin,
एक
total.
आदमी नहीं, कुछ नहीं
Absolutely,
दिखाई देता. एक
absolutely.
and पूरा only the squadron.
Yes,
I mean, you could roam around naked on these beaches, nobody would be
absolutely,
bothered.
absolutely, absolutely.
But you could get lost, huh? You could get, once I got lost, and that was a very frightening experience. I had gone on my bloody Bajaj Priya, and there was, I was off-roading, if you please. And you can't make out. You just keep going round and round the same place because हर hedge को same दिखता है कि हाँ ये वाला hedge था पिछली बार left में था सही है, and then you've landed up somewhere else and no phones, no nothing. It was a very frightening experience.
Which
Oh
year?
my
Which year
God.
was this, Sharmila?
I don't remember the years. I am so long. We've had so many postings, and we've had, where haven't we gone? Chabua, Nalia, Uttarlay, Badmer, what और क्या है? मतलब यही सब चुटपुट जगह all over.
Which would you call a favorite if I had to force you to make a choice?
47 squad in Chabua. That was my first after I got married, and we were a notorious gang. Air Force अपने रूल से चलता था, हम लोग अपने रूल से चलते थे.
A
And
lot of people
Chabua
in the
में
East
मतलब we
have
lived.
a lot of affection for the East. And what is it about that place that, causes that?
Oh, we were like gangsters. We were like gangsters. Like we could do what we wanted to. वो air headquarters कुछ भी बोलता रहता था. एक कान से सुनो, दूसरे कान से निकाल दो. Do what you feel like. कौन पूछने आएगा, कौन देखने आएगा?
Some people call it the Far Eastern Air Force. It was almost like a different service.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And bad weather means all of us would arrive at the squadron, the crew room, and samosa, chai, bridge playing, or something. मतलब अपना ही party time all the time. And Friday evening, the van
Three-tonner?
would come. What did you call it? That
Aircrew
van which
van
used to
or
pick up all
three-tonner?
the guys for the. And
Aircrew,
those days we
aircrew,
used to get
aircrew
Aircrew
van.
aircrew van. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Friday evening the partying started, and Sunday afternoon the partying went on.
Well, for me, the easternmost point was Kalaikonda, which is not really east, far east. But I must share this experience with you that we got posted to Kalaikonda, and there was a party in the evening at home. So I switched on my
Oh, that's
mixie,
so
and the
common.
next moment the
So common.
electricity went off. And so I was happily singing. Yeah, and I was happily singing and doing my work. And my maid kept on giving me those looks. So I looked at her, I said, "What happened?" She said, "Madam, party hai, lekin light to chali gayi hai." I said, "I was a Bombay girl. I didn't know lights bhi jati hai." So anyway, I told her, "Yeah, they will come." I said, "I'll finish." Yeah, I said, "I'll finish off the rest of the work, and then we'll do the mixie job." So she said, "Madam, no. Sometimes यहाँ 3-3 दिन तक light नहीं आती." And sure enough, we had electricity after 72 hours. I don't even remember what I did to the mixer, the stuff that was there in the mixie, whether I just put it in the masala or whether I ground it. I don't remember. But these were, and then the snakes that, the only animals I had seen in Bombay were four-legged animals, cow, dog, cats, that's about it. But one fine morning, I was greeted by a very nice reptile, just outside the door
My
saying,
God.
"Hello, good morning." So these were the experiences that you really had to get used to. Yeah.
No, and the community living.
Oh, that was
Like
wonderful.
I didn't know how to cook to save my life. No, I didn't even know how to light a gas. Okay, I didn't. हमारा नूतन स्टोव वोव नहीं था. हमारे दिनों में गैस आ गया था, ठीक है? तो, but I didn't know how to do anything. So and I used to love having parties. So what I would do is all the squadron का senior ladies ना, they used to treat me like बच्चा आया है हमारे यहाँ, उसको look after करना हमारा काम है, and all of them, and they took their roles very seriously. And people like Aruna Bakshi and all were excellent cooks. So I would make a very sorry face and say, I want to have people over. What do I do? Aruna would say, don't worry, Sharmila, I'll make this. Then I'd go to Veena Lakwara and say, पता है अरुणा ने बोला वो ये बना के खिलाएगी. अच्छा, मैं ये बना दूंगी. बस मेरा पार्टी रेडी. Then I'd go call up all the bachelors and say, आजा हम लोग पार्टी करेंगे, डांस करेंगे, खाना आ जाएगा, don't worry.
Visual show before you visualize. Just need 70, Roger, report time southeast, connection, for midway, and you'll select it.
So, talking about parties, I think civilians are not familiar with this uniquely Air Force institutional called bouncing a party. So, what is that? So, can you describe what?
Bouncing. Yes. It still happens. Just last
Yes.
week,
So,
Swaroopa and her husband decided to bounce
Yeah.
us, which was such a joy.
It still happens. Yes. Yes, that is such a lovely tradition that really builds up the bonds. Yes.
Yeah, bouncing was one big thing. Yeah.
so can you tell for
Yeah.
the audience who don't know what it is? Can you explain what bouncing is?
It's an impromptu arrival in somebody's house with the expectation of having a good time. You need not know those people.
And being fed. खाना खिलाओ, दारू पिलाओ.
And in
Right.
civilian life, they would call us क्या mannerless लोग हैं, बिना बताए आ गए. So bouncing was actually that you just went to somebody's house for a good drink and a good plate of whatever. But those were also joyous moments because there was never any pressure to cook only this or that. Those who bounced came to your kitchen.
We never had the option of ordering it. We never had that option. We had to do it. But the sense of welcoming and belonging is because of a shared experience. I don't think it's possible on City Street because you don't have entire communities which are sharing the same living experience. Very rare.
Yeah. And especially if somebody got married naya and came and all, उनको तो bounce करना जरूरी था. No, I'll never forget one experience of mine. This happened in Uttarlai. Okay. So Viri Bajwa was the commanding officer and his wife Cookie. She knew that Sharmila ko to khana wana banana aata nahi hai. So one of our youngsters had gone to get married and I had told him then, that was about 40 days before this incident, that jis din aayega na mere ghar mein dinner, okay? And that day in the evening, she was going past in her scooter and she saw me sitting happily on top of one of the boxes and singing loudly and all that. So she looked at me, Sharmila, तेरे घर में ललन and this one are coming for dinner. Do you know that? वो लोग तैयार हो रहे. मैंने कहा है क्यों? She says because you called them 45 days back when he was going to get married. I said, oh bloody hell, I forgot. And Uttarlai mein we used to live in barracks. Okay, there was a volleyball field in the center. All the youngsters were playing volleyball or handball or something like that. I went running, एक घर में धड़ाम दरवाजा खोला. ए फ्रिज में क्या है? ये है. अरे निकाल. ए फ्रिज में क्या है? I collected फ्रिज में क्या है? फ्रिज में क्या है? फ्रिज में क्या है? 5-6 चीज आ गया मेरे घर में. उसको गरम किया. I told the youngsters go block them for another 1 hour. उसको उससे पहले आने मत देना. तब तक I had my table, I had that prestige pressure cooker look on my face जैसे मैंने ही सब कुछ बनाया. ठेंगा मैंने कुछ नहीं बनाया था. And as a bonus to the youngsters, I told them you can come and share
And
them.
the institution of the structure around which this all happens is the squadron, right? I think
Absolutely.
if you all can just describe
Absolutely.
the sense of the squadron. This is how many officers? 10, 12 pilots, a few engineers, maybe a doctor. Is that the composition of the squad?
The number of pilots might change a little bit.
Yeah, and then you do everything together, right? You party together, you work together, you bounce together, you celebrate together. Everything is together, isn't it?
It also went beyond the squadron, I think. It used to go
No,
beyond
the squadron was
to
the
unit.
first unit. I mean, like the
Yes.
core unit, and then
Right.
if squadron to squadron bhi hota tha, there used to be a little bit
Yeah.
of rivalry also, competition also, camaraderie also, all of it.
And squadron command made you parents all over again. You were absolutely like parents to the youngsters in the
Yeah.
squadron.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you were
yes,
Amma ji, total
total
Amma
Amma
Yeah,
ji.
ji.
there's one thing that you don't have much of a rank hierarchy, maybe because the element of risk is so high at all levels. The hierarchy is not as rigid, the rank structure is not as rigid as I know in the army, for example.
No, Sheila, because in the while they are flying, the rank is immaterial, right?
Exactly.
They are on equal terms. So
Yeah,
I mean in the crew room and whatever it is, because of the kind of work that they do, वहां में
yeah,
वो yes sir 3 bags full up up to a level चलता है when you are in uniform and whatever. But once you are in the air, काहे का?
yeah. That is why our senior wives were great fun.
Absolutely.
Great fun. I mean, Ladies Club was one crackpot evening
Yes, yes,
every month. It
yes,
was great
yes.
fun. I don't know how it is now, but it used to be really
Yeah, so
fun.
that's another unique institution. So I'd love to have you describe what is Ladies Club. Yeah.
Yeah, it was lovely. So my husband, when I got married, he knew what a crackpot I was, and I was not used to. And I've always been thoda panga lene ka types. So he had told me, देख घोड़े के पीछे और सीनियर ऑफिसर की बीवी के सामने मत जाना, just to play safe. एंड घोड़े के पीछे तो मैं नहीं गई, लेकिन सीनियर ऑफिसर के बीवी के सामने मैं जरूर गई. एंड आई मेड सच ग्रेट फ्रेंड्स बिकॉज आई वुड टेल देम, जैसे मैं किसी स्क्वाड्रन में नया जाती थी, आई सेड लेडीज क्लब तो होगा ही होगा. दे से हाँ. आई सेड यू वुड गेट टेंस जब भी लेडीज क्लब होगा. दे सेड हाँ. आई सेड देखो, मुझे केक बनाना नहीं आता, मुझे डेकोरेशन करना नहीं आता, बट एंटरटेनमेंट लीव इट टू मी. एंटरटेनमेंट
Entertainment.
एंटरटेनमेंट एंटरटेनमेंट एंड एवरीथिंग का कोई भी आएगा, हम लोग भांड पार्टी एकदम परफॉर्म करेंगे, डोंट वरी. So they should love me because there was nobody else who was willing to go on stage and do all kinds of silly things. I said, मैं भी करूंगी, मेरे साथ दूसरों को भी नचाऊंगी, don't worry.
You missed your vocation.
I missed my vocation,
Okay.
really. I did. Absolutely. But we had fun. And I used to smoke heavily those days. Huh? So Cookie Bajwa, Sardarni. So once I had told her, I said, मेरे ना सारे creative thoughts ना मेरे को WC के ऊपर smoking करते हुए आता था. So whenever there was a big visit or some, कोई क्या Commodore Commandant's visit, Cookie Bajwa the Sardarni would carry 2-3 packets of cigarettes. वो मेरे घर आती थी. And then she'd say, शर्मिला
Smoke कर
ये
ले.
ले, जा बैठ जा और सोच और फिर बात करते हैं. But it was fun, यार. क्या creativity हम लोग करते थे, क्या
We
मजे
had to
करते
get
थे.
used to a lot of Air Force jargon, especially for me. I mean, being a civilian, when we were newly married, my husband said,
Yeah.
"Let's go to the mess quickly." So I was wondering, I said, "Why get up from one mess?" Because we were in the process of shifting out. So I said, "Why get up from one mess and go
Yeah.
to some other mess? Let's sort out our mess first." I had no clue that a mess was
Yeah,
called mess.
Swaroopa, it was the
Yeah.
same here. Oh, even when you go northwards and you've spoken Bombay
Oh,
Hindi,
yeah, yes.
you don't know that batata,
Kanda.
kanda suddenly become aloo
Yeah,
and pyaz.
and you're
How does that
you know,
work?
That's
and we
true.
learned a lot of
And
tehzeeb from tum kya kar raha hai. We learned to say aap kya kar rahe ho to everybody.
And then you come back to Goa, you come back to tu because aap doesn't
Exist in
exist here.
Kotu, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
in
true,
one
that's
of
true,
the
that's true,
parties,
yeah.
somebody suddenly, one of the ladies said, "Oh, here comes the cow." So I didn't know that bovines were also invited. I didn't know it was a commanding officer's wife.
Ah,
He said, "Oh, here comes the cow." So I
Yeah.
was so shocked. I said, "Cows are attending
Yeah.
parties, no?
right.
What's happening?"
A very unique position. And that's because there are some youngsters who are just, maybe 19 or 20 or 20, 21 years old in the squadrons, right? And so you really become like a mother. In fact, sorry, when my father commanded 28th Squadron, they named my mother Amma and they called her Amma till she passed
Okay,
away.
Amma. Yeah.
It was,
okay, okay,
yeah,
okay.
it was,
Right.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
That's
I remember whenever any ladies club ho, कोई भी party ho, I was the only one who had a full-time domestic help, like which came from home and she stayed with me, right? So वो मेरे घर में खिचड़ी बनता था सारे बच्चों के लिए. एक कमरा में गद्दा बिछा दिया, सारे बच्चे वहां खेलो, and the older ones were in charge of the younger ones, and the mothers were free to go and enjoy themselves.
a typical scene. Yeah.
So my squadron was very proud of themselves. They said, हमको तो कोई टेंशन ही नहीं है, शर्मिला सब देख लेती है.
so talking about children, allows me a segue to the next question. With all these frequent transfers and things like that, what has been the implication on the kids, their education, their social life, their ability to make friends? How do you think it's impacted them?
Okay, so I think they're broad minded, but also they lack roots, which could be a problem. But yeah, they make friends easily, they adjust to situations easily, but their way of thinking is a little different from others, definitely.
Do you think academically they were impacted by the variable quality of schools that they encountered?
Yes and no, because where my son went to study, I was probably the only literate mother. But on the other hand, he learned geography and history firsthand, and he had access to books in the library and stuff. So yeah, there were good parts and bad parts.
Yes, pure academics, if you ask us, yeah, pure academics, they might have missed out on something. But I think if the parents don't make a fuss out of it, I think the children are also very adaptable. And I think all our children are now, so-called literate and educated. But the best education they've had is the exposure that they've had at, various places, meeting various people, interacting with a mess waiter, right? Up to the president of the I mean, a little bit of exaggeration, but yes, from a mess waiter to the president of the country.
And they imbibe a sense of service. They imbibe a sense of service to the nation, a sense of service to those who are less privileged than them. I don't know how it comes about, but they do get it.
That is a very valid point. Yes, Sheila has made a very valid point. They are very sensitive to the people.
No, like my daughter,
Mhm.
she's an only child, and then what happened was she never created long term. Like, I'm from a boarding school, thoroughbred boarder. Like, when I was 7 years old, I went to boarding, and till date I have, I go for holidays with those friends, so these are like long
Same
term,
here, right from the time I was a
well rooted
toddler. Yeah,
relation. My daughter doesn't have any such well rooted relationship, so that's the minus bit of it. Okay, the plus bit of it, I don't know how she managed, but she managed well despite the repeated interruptions in the education, and they learned different kinds of things, which this thing. Yes, but there was a lot of inverted snobbery from which she had to suffer, and I saw her suffer. Like, there were times when she was the only officer's child in the class,
yeah, that
and
happens.
she would wear a shorter skirt than the rest of the girls, or the rest, even if she wanted to have them over, like, she would say, why don't you come to my house, we'll eat together, we'll have lunch together. It's a no, our father said we cannot go to your house because your father is the commanding officer and we are not allowed to. And she could never understand that, and she'd cry at home and say, why can't I have them over? And I'd say, yeah, I'm happy to have them over, but what do I do if their parents don't allow, yaar?
Yeah, Saurabh also had that.
तो ये सब होता था. Or she would come and tell me, so and so friend comes walking, and what's up? I mean, so there was a lot of. She was more sensitive to the underprivileged, I would say, because she lived with them, she ate with them, she worked with them. So that way, yes.
Correct. I've seen that with many of the services children, at least Air Force children. Yeah.
My daughter made a statement when she was around 15 years old. She was eating a batata vada. She studied in Mumbai in JJ School of Art. So she was eating a batata vada. So suddenly she looks up at me and she says, Mama, we are so lucky, no? We enjoy the 5 rupaye ka batata vada as much as we do a five-star meal. So that time I realized the value of all the exposure that they've got. Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right, right. I remember when I was working in a hotel and I was had given a certain allowance, and my son, I had ordered a soft drink for him, and he saw the price on the menu and he said, "My God, I don't want it."
Hmm.
And it was so natural. Yeah, that's true. But it's a good thing. They realize the value of things.
Oh, it's absolutely a good thing. The value of it. That's why they are very satisfied.
No, I don't know whether it's good or bad. It's different, definitely different. Like, the education that I received and the education that my daughter received are completely different. The kind of people I grew up with and the kind of people she grew up. But I wouldn't say that I had it better or she had it better. We are just very different because of our exposures were different.
Yeah, so that's why I said these children imbibe a certain sense of service.
But the adaptability is different. Yes, yes, that's true. The adaptability quotient is very high.
Yeah. Super. Can we change gears now to careers? And by joining your husbands at these remote places, I'm sure your personal careers suffered quite a bit. And what is it like among wives in the service? Are they able to build any sort of career? I seem to remember, becoming a school teacher was the one thing that you could then, get another job whenever you moved. But otherwise, other careers were kind of out of question because these were days before internet and working from anywhere and things like that.
Yeah, so I think teaching was the only job that most of the women take. I was the only one who took to writing, but that involved a lot of time. Like you send an article, it takes 3 weeks to get a response, and another 3 weeks to edit it and stuff like that. But yeah, otherwise, teaching was the only profession. I can't think of any other.
While my husband was alive and in the Air Force, well, I did different jobs. I never had a career.
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't miss a career because I was happy to be a kept woman.
Very true.
But the thing is that when he died in 1997, and I was 35 years, that's when the test of my ability came. And boy, oh boy, did I take on the challenge and how I enjoyed that climb. मतलब मजा आ गया मेरे को. But it's not as if I've had any regrets about अरे मैंने पहले किया. My friends who were like career women, a lot of my friends are proper full-time career women. Okay, I caught up with them and I beat them at their own game. So that was my fun element. I don't know how life would have been if he was alive. I don't know if I would have continued being a kept woman or I would have kept changing. But I was never a domesticated person. So I needed to get out of the house. So I would find any excuse to get out of the house. Like I would go to Badmer Court where everything was in Hindi. And the first question I was asked was, Aapka jaat kya hai? And I had to call up my father on a trunk call to find out hamara jaat kya hai. And my father asked, why the hell do you know what your jaat is? And when I told him that my senior wanted to know, he said, I recommend you don't work with that senior, but I still worked
Right, right.
because I needed to get out of the house, so that's the kind of stuff I did, I couldn't be confined to the house.
Yeah, me too. I needed to get out of the house. That's true. Yeah, and I was fortunate after Tant left the Air Force, I did get opportunities. So it worked out. I can't say about those who are teachers.
Mm. How about you, Mrs. Nanodkar? Mm.
Yeah, Ganpati. My career before it could take off, I was married because I had got a job with Air India, but it was supposed to. I got a job after we came back from our honeymoon. The appointment letter was there, and obviously, I mean, it was a conscious decision that I took that I have to stay with my husband. So, and they wanted a Bombay-based person, so it was not possible. So, but as Sharmila is very rightly put it, we did a lot of jobs. We didn't have careers, but we ended up doing a lot of jobs, which were very satisfying. So I think she's put it very well by saying we had jobs to do, but may not be careers. Yeah.
Right.
Individual to before visualizing. Just need 70, like your report IP southeast, connection, for midway, and field selected.
So, changing gears to a slightly more serious topic, which is that every morning when you kiss your husband goodbye, he's going off to do a job which is very different from what most husbands do. And there is a out of ordinary quantum of risk with that. And I remember as a child when my dad would come home for his full medals and his peak cap during the workday. That was the worst thing, which you didn't want him to do because it meant that there had been an accident on the base. So just love to hear, what is it like to Be the spouse of somebody who walks out the door every morning and does something that is, relatively speaking, dangerous. And Mr. Acharya will come.
I don't think I was ever afraid. I don't know. I was never afraid.
The only times I used to be afraid was when flying ho raha hai and suddenly the flying stopped.
Suddenly there's the sudden silence.
Yes, that was that.
Whenever the suddenly the flying stopped, तब एंटेना खड़े हो जाते थे. Other than that, in your day-to-day life, you never lived with any fear, or I mean, at least I didn't. But you knew that they were in a high-risk job, but it was not as if we were constantly like हाथ पांव कांप रहे थे. It was not like that. But when the flying stopped, that's when you knew that कुछ तो गड़बड़ है. And for me, the day Chow died, when I saw the AOC walk into my house, I knew it was full and final. I just knew it. Because I had done it so many, I mean, like for others and this thing. And there's a sense of something brewing, even though I didn't know for a while because they were still not sure what the result of the crash was or whatever, they must have been doing their own homework but the moment he walked in, I looked at him. I said, "Is that it?" I just looked at him and I said, "Is that it?" And he looked down, I remember, and that was it. I mean, I just knew it. So that was that.
Yes, the flying that stops, the noise that suddenly stops is a very
Very ominous silence.
scary thing. Yeah, it very very ominous, and it still scares you.
Yeah,
But otherwise, like again, like Sharmila has very rightly put it, we didn't live in the fear of
yeah. Was never
this.
afraid, really. Like in Srinagar when he had the dead stick landing, for which he got the Shaurya Chakra, I didn't at that stage I didn't even know how risky it was. I kind of learnt it. But in Jodhpur, when he ejected, and they took some time to find out where he was, and that 1 hour, another officer came and sat with me when they were not sure. Like Sharmila said, when they're not sure, they just keep quiet. They don't say anything. So yeah, but no, I was not afraid.
No, but what made this constant threat of death, as you would say, or this dangerous jobs that our husbands did, I think they made us very different kind of people. Today, when we see people talking, squabbling, and talking about things that really don't matter, I think we can proudly, yeah, it sounds very petty, and today it makes us very proud that we have been able to rise above all that because of a thing that may not have, a death is not something that anybody would talk about or take it in. Yeah, but it's made us better, good people at heart, I would
Yeah,
say.
you're so right. No, no. And believe you me, when I went through that experience, okay, a few of my friends have also lost their spouses in other things. मतलब किसी का heart attack, किसी का कुछ, 2 years from my episode, the way the Air Force stood with me, the way my friends came, पता नहीं कहाँ कहाँ उनकी पोस्टिंग थी, बच्चों को छोड़ के, कुत्तों को छोड़ के, पैसे नहीं है एक फ्लाइट के टिकट के लिए. Those days we didn't get paid well, right? But they arrived there and the pura, matlab, I, I, I'm still blank for about 2 months का मेरा बिल्कुल ही blank. Otherwise, I'm a pretty like spot on person. Okay, uh, people just told me sign here, sign there, do this, do that. मेरे को जो बोला मैंने किया. But जो भी बोला वो सही बोला. You know, I mean, I was not in a position to take any decisions. And a person like me, if I was not, then I can imagine the rest though. And but like, I had no clue what the hell was going on. I was in a trance, like, completely lost. But the way the forces stood with me, matlab kya bataye. And those dostis have remained till date. Solid dostis.
Hmm.
I think this is the camaraderie that carries us through
Yeah,
all
you
the.
don't even have to know the
I think it's
person.
the genuine,
Yeah,
genuine.
yeah, definitely.
My husband died in 1997. Till date, those youngsters, I call them youngsters, abhi sab budde ho gaye. But we are in touch and we, this thing and we share moments. I've forgotten kiske saath mein kaun se squadron mein thi. They have to keep reminding me and all that. But even today, like wherever I am, they'll come and catch up with me or I'll go and catch up with them. And, that's and matlab, यू डोंट थिंक अबाउट क्या जाए कि नहीं जाए ये वो मतलब तुम लोग आए हो तो यहाँ आने का है.
Yeah. But another thing, Swarupa and Sharmila, I don't know if you noticed, fighter pilots are supposed to be very flamboyant and very brash and stuff like that. But most of the people whom I have met, they're quite modest, humble, and they don't really talk about themselves, and they don't. What they're made out to be is completely different from what they actually are.
I think it's we should thank the Bollywood for that, for putting up imaginary,
Yeah,
characters and houses.
Guns. You know what your father was
Quite
like.
self-effacing.
Did he appear at any time flamboyant?
No, 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 no. But the cockiness was not in their personal demeanor. The cockiness was in the ability to take risks, not being afraid to face this thing. That is the cockiness which is required.
Required,
Otherwise, which
yes,
idiot
yes.
goes and puts their necks out every morning and say, "हाँ जी, मैं बलि का बकरा बनने के लिए तैयार हूँ." वो the cockiness is not in being a show off. It's not in being a Tom Cruise or being a show off, but थोड़ा तो attitude उनको भी अच्छा लगता है यार. वो aviator glasses and वो that swag which comes when you wear your G suit and walk, वो swag अपने आप ही आ जाता
Yeah,
था.
the body language might show it, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
but that is required, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, of course, that swag was there. And वो थोड़ा सा, then I remember because when I was going around with my husband, so a lot of other guys also used to, generally वो थोड़ा बहुत competition चलता था and ये वो. He was never थोड़ा सा वो attitude मतलब ठीक है यार इनको line मार लेने दो, finally तो मैं ही जीतूंगा kind of.
Yeah, I'd use the term quiet professionalism rather than, swagger or anything of that sort. Because I think that's what a lot
Yeah,
of them
Yeah,
were.
yeah,
correct, correct.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
so, any final thoughts for, say, a newly wedded wife in the service or the girlfriend of a, current military aviator who's thinking of tying the knot sometime soon?
It's not the same age. I don't think I can give much advice. It's not the same age.
Yeah, we are the wrong people you are
Sheila, you're
interviewing.
absolutely right.
We are the wrong. The services have changed as has the whole world.
Yeah, they can sit at home and they can have full-fledged careers, and they don't really have to toe the line.
I
There's
don't think our advice would be very relevant today. Our experiences, yes. Our
correct.
experiences, yes. Experiences, yes.
And they themselves are pilots.
Right.
Yeah, the women themselves are pilots. They themselves are professionals. We cannot advise them. No way, no way.
Yeah, there are a lot of inter-service marriages now. So, there are a lot of career. There are officers, male officers, female officers. Yes. So the scene has changed quite a bit. But yes, the advice would remain the same. Have fun.
And they would be having their own fun, which we don't know about.
Yeah, but there are one thing that I would, it's very close to my heart. I couldn't do it when
Yeah,
my husband
yeah,
was in service, but there is something that
correct.
pinches me very badly. I mean, forget the accommodation; we take it in a stride. Bad accommodations, one room, two, that they don't really matter. There is one aspect I would like to share if we have the time.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So my daughter, I had a very scary experience when my daughter was about to lose her admission in JJ School of Art, Mumbai. She had earned it. She had cleared her exams. When I walked into the office for the payment, they asked me for a domicile, which I did not have because she was my firstborn. So, she was my firstborn. We were not clued up as far as now. I would like the services, and if somebody from you know, the position gets to hear this, please do not ask the Fauji kids for a domicile, or have separate rules, formulate a separate policy. Which Fauji kid stays in a state for 3 years or 5 years as a guarantee?
Right, right.
I don't think any of us have.
Yeah, so actually, I'm surprised you asked, because now that I am in that, I've been in that field for a couple of years. Yeah, provision is there for central government officers and military officers who have transferable jobs. It is there.
I think it must have come now, but in 19 when she started her 2005.
No, no, it's been there. It's been there, I think, from the 1960s. It has been there.
No, but I don't think it has filtered down. Yeah, but I don't think it has, because I was asked for the domicile, and then because they didn't have the domicile, they asked for something called nationality certificate, which nobody had heard of. And unfortunately, in those days, yes, I said, how?
I've never heard of that.
You know how I solved this problem? I walked into the office. I walked into the office of the director of technical education, and I told him, I said, "You're the only person, because my husband is a serving Indian Air Force officer. He cannot have any other nationality, obviously. And my daughter is about to lose her admission because of things like domicile and national. So you're the only person who can help me." But thankfully, he did help me. So, but then we had to run from pillar to post.
Super. So, any parting thoughts? We'll just go one by one. Maybe we'll start with Mrs. Rai Chaudhary. And overall, if you would just think of your life as the wife of a Air Force officer, what is it?
आज अगर मेरे को कोई पूछता, see, I've been a civilian. I married into the services. I got out of the services under very unfortunate circumstances. I built my life as a civilian. I've enjoyed my innings and I'm still enjoying it. आज भी अगर कोई मेरे को पूछता, would you go back to the Air Force? I'd say yes, 100%. वो जिंदगी कुछ अलग थी.
Yes, I would love to be. I would have loved to remain in the Air Force forever. And of course, I mean, it's been a awesome journey. And although I was known as, I read an article today which where one lady said that she has objections to being called Mrs. So and so, which I do understand, because as Sharmila said, we are archaic. Initially, even I had my reservations that why is everybody addressing me as Mrs. So and so. But although I was addressed as Mrs. So and so, the most liberating and self-discovering journey was in the Air Force. Paradoxically.
Mrs. Jaywant, your parting thoughts?
Yeah, so I think I agree with what Sharmila said. Was zindagi aur thi. And when I moved into my jobs in the corporate sector, I realized that whatever I had learned in the society, in the Air Force camps and dealing with people, that stood me in very good stead. Very good stead. To have a spine, to have integrity, to whatever, to expect the best from others, whatever you call it. But yes, I owe the Air Force a lot. It's been a very good life there.
Lovely. When Mrs. Nanodkar was speaking, I was just reminded of the story my parents used to tell. They got married when they were in Kanpur, and he took her to the station, and on the taxi tracks, he taught her to drive on the weekend. Monday morning, he took her on GT Road in Kanpur to the RTO, got her a license, gave her the keys and his salary, and he said, "Now you're in charge of the house."
And then he took her to a market and left her there, I know.
Sheela, that's what I call the swagger of a fighter pilot. That's what I call. मतलब इतना confidence क्या मतलब?
Oh, don't even talk about driving lessons. Yeah, मैं बहुत रोई हूँ learning how to drive the scooter.
It's been absolutely a pleasure speaking to you all. I want to thank you for your candor and for your jokes, and for also your very heartfelt stories of loss. But just very, very grateful to you, and thank you for your service, because all of you have also, in your own way, really served the country.
Thank you so much. Yes, and Jai Hind. Yes.
Thank you,
ma'am.
guys. Thanks.
Jai Hind.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Jai Hind.
Just need 7B, like your import IP Southeast, connection, for, come into it, and you'll select it.
Well, folks, that's all we have time for this week. Join us again next week. In the meantime, sign up for updates at blueskiespodcast.com. There you'll find links to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also write to us with your comments, questions, suggestions, and feedback from the website or to blueskies@prganapati.com. Subscribe to the podcast on any podcasting platform such as Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even on YouTube. If you like what you heard, share it with your friends, give us a rating in your favorite podcasting app, and write us a review. It will help other people find us. I want to give my thanks to Saurav Chordia for our logo and Prithvik for the music. I want to reiterate that all the views expressed here are personal, and this podcast has not been approved by or reviewed by the Air Force, Ministry of Defense, or any branch of the government. In the meantime, stay safe and Jai Hind.